Pokemon Red and Blue launched here in the US in 1998, and ever since I saw the first commercial for the games, I was hooked. I have played every generation, done every challenge there is, Nuzlocke, no capture runs, starter only. I even beat Pokemon Red with only a Magikarp, streamed it all live with fans watching the entire time. But never did I ever dream I could beat Pokemon without taking a single point of damage. Every Pokemon has decent HP, except for one, and there's even free healing stations called Pokemon Centers, which encourage you to take damage. So how did I beat Pokemon without taking any damage? Seems impossible, right? I'll explain everything in today's video. It began as a silly idea. I had beaten every other challenge, even some ROM hacks too. What else could I do? Beat Pokemon without taking any damage. How could you beat Pokemon without taking any damage though? It's impossible, right? Simple. Through manipulating the RNG. RNG is a random number generator, and Pokemon relies heavily upon the chance and RNG idea. So put simply, when in a battle, there's a 1 in 4 chance that your opponent will use a move. Even if it's a bad move, making itself more of a dice roll than actual gameplay mechanics. Very rarely will the enemy use something like an X item or a potion, so maybe it could be considered a 1 in 5 or 6, but really it does come down to just a 1 in 4 chance. Not to get too deep into it, but the AI in the game is terrible, and only a handful of trainers, such as your rival or gym leaders, will use any strategy. Therefore, you can manipulate every battle and every move by safe scumming. It sounds like cheating, and to some level it is, but it's also the only way to not take damage. So keeping that in mind, let's begin some light commentary on the no damage run here. I'm going to run through all the major points of the game and give highlights to important events, and explain just how I accomplished this feat. So here we go. I started my run like any other run. Was I really going to do this? Even with save scumming, would I be able to actually beat a Pokemon game without taking damage? The game that literally gives you all kinds of Pokemon, choices, revives, healing potions, things like that, because you'll take damage. Well, only one way to find out. I was greeted and welcomed to the world of Pokemon. I named myself Purrect because it seemed more fitting, and as soon as the game started, I withdrew the traditional potion to sell for money. We ain't gonna need those. Professor Oak told me not to go into the tall grass because there's some Pokemon out there and it's unsafe, so I should probably take one with me. And as kind as he is, he offered me a choice. I picked the only rational choice, and I'll discuss that, why I chose Charmander. But first, we have a rival battle to deal with, and I'm going to explain basically how this goes. So the reason I chose Charmander itself is because I need to get through Viridian Forest, and I need to be able to level up quickly without taking multiple hits or the chance that I would miss with things like Tackle. Charmander starts with Scratch. Scratch is 100% accurate, and then he gains Ember, which is going to make battles much easier based on Charmander's special. Charmander is GOAT early on. So I went and got Professor Oak's parcel, decided to take it back to Professor Oak, and Professor Oak did reward me with this cool thing. It's called a high-tech encyclopedia, Pokedex, and then he sent me on my way. I once again got the potion from the bush, and I decided to challenge Rival 1. Now this rival challenge in battle was a serious problem, and I'll explain why. So early on, if you're doing a single Pokemon run of any kind, no capture run, you're going to have issues because Pidgey has something called Sand Attack. So if it consistently uses Sand Attack, you're going to miss and you're going to lose. So it was reset time. So I decided to go to the forest this time instead. And I decided that it probably would have been a better idea to level up just a little bit before I battled the rival. But I did need the rival experience. So after a few battles in the forest, once again pointing out the fact that you get Ember at such an early level, with Charmander, it became a breeze to go through this. Believe it or not, this Weedle did survive an Ember, which astonished me, but again, the computer AI is pretty bad, as long as it's not an Elite Four gym leader or a rival battle. But the rival battle's AI is much better, which is what you're about to see. Now, normally, you wouldn't have an issue with rival battles, but if you have a weakness, the rival will exploit that weakness because the AI is programmed much better. Better doesn't mean perfect. Case in point, his Pidgey is using Sand Attack, which is really bad and sucks, but I'm a higher level, so I don't have to land every single hit, and I can play the odds. I can roll the dice here and miss a few attacks and still not have to reset. I get a lucky burn, he uses Sand Attack twice, and boom, we're in business. So, I'm only highlighting a couple of the major battles because I don't think it would be the best idea to highlight every single battle. We'll be here for like 12 hours straight. So, basically, because he has a Squirtle, his Squirtle's consistently wanting to use Bubble over everything else, but he does have Tail Whip, and I exploit him until he uses Tail Whip or misses with Tackle. This was a very long battle, and it took a long time to get him to do all that, but finally I did beat the rival, and I got quite a bit of experience as a reward for it. I continued the playthrough and journeyed back to the Poké Center, healing my Pokemon, and then I thought it would be a good idea after I got through Viridian Forest to challenge the junior trainer before Brock. It was at this point in time in the playthrough that I realized I made a grave mistake, and that Diglett doesn't learn any other moves but one attacking move until later levels. So yeah, I couldn't do this battle. So anyways, I just decided to go straight to Brock then. Unfortunately, I couldn't get that XP, but that's fine. Brock's going to be an issue, but he's never an issue in Gen 1 because his rock Pokemon don't actually have rock-type moves. This being one of the gym leaders, I'm going to try and include the full battle, but I'm not going to waste your time with ridiculous amount of resets. And let me tell you, there's some trainers that I do encounter that have ridiculous amounts of resets. So the point being, Geodude can either go for Defense Curl or Tackle, and more often than not, he will go for Defense Curl a couple times and then Tackle. But his AI is still pretty low tier and pretty random, but it is better than almost any other trainer out there that is just a trainer class and not a gym leader. So he does go for several Defense Curls. He goes for Tackle and misses twice, astonishingly enough, reinforcing what I said earlier about choosing Charmander because Scratch always hits. Again, very important to know the odds. Onix is the next one up, and he has 3 options: Screech, Bide, or Tackle. So he will use all 3. I don't know the percentage, I don't know the chance, but you could just rule it as a 1 in 3 chance, because every time I've played through Red, I've always had Brock use all 3 moves on me, no matter what. He's never favored one over another one. But he does consistently use Tackle. He misses because I can manipulate RNG with resets, and finally I get him to miss the Tackle. We don't want him to use Bide because we won't be able to do enough damage to knock him out before he unleashes energy on us again. I could growl while he uses Bide, but there's no point in that. We want him to use Screech or miss with Tackle. It doesn't particularly matter how many times he uses what moves, but we just need him to miss enough so that Ember knocks him out. I'm using Ember and I'm using Charmander because, once again, the speed and the special and the experience that I was able to gain meant that I didn't have to grind in the Viridian Forest and I could just come straight to Brock. I was able to just destroy the trainers instead of having to do normal type damage to them, and now I can come to Brock. I didn't get lucky and I never got a burn, which is really weird because I used a lot of Ember on him. But I did eventually get through it. I grew to level 15 and Brock is defeated. The first boss has been knocked out. This was a big victory considering the resistance. So I continued forward after healing my Pokemon, and at this point in time I'd like to note that I picked up Pikachu. Yes, this is not a no capture or starter only run. This is just a no damage run, so I can use any Pokemon I want, and I do need Pikachu, and I'm gonna tell you the reason coming up, but I'm not gonna show you all the trainers of this area. Just assume I defeated them all in the same style that I beat Brock. Once again, I'm only highlighting some riveting trainers. Trainers that had Pokemon that can put you to sleep were the biggest threats to me, because if I got put to sleep then I would get hit and that would suck. So again, just food for thought in the future. If you decided to try and do this, please note that some of the worst trainers to face when you're doing a no damage run are trainers that can put you to sleep or give you status conditions, because once again, you're not taking a hit, but inevitably in the next turn you'll take the hit, so you just might as well reset if you get put to sleep. I thought that Jigglypuff was going to be one of the more rougher trainers, but it wasn't. My Charmander evolved into Charmeleon when I fought all of those trainers along that way, beat the Jigglypuff, healed my Pokemon, arrived at Mount Moon. Now, Mount Moon, again, I'm not going to show every battle or every trainer, but just know because of the way I have battled and selected the trainers, I did not need to grind. So, another big issue in this, and one of the mini bosses I would consider is the Clefairy trainer, which is very, very difficult. Clefairy can put you to sleep. Again, it's a very, very bad situation, especially if Clefairy outspeeds, because then they outspeed you, and then they put you to sleep. But here's the Pikachu strat. Thunder Wave, and manipulate RNG until they're fully paralyzed. You can do this, or you can do Sand Attack. Thunder Wave works very, very well, and you can manipulate the paralysis RNG. And at some point in time in the game, in multiple areas of this run, I had to rely on Thunder Wave to actually make it through. Had I not had Thunder Wave, the run would have been dead. But you can use Pidgey and Sand Attack, or other Pokemon with Sand Attack. There's plenty of different flying type Pokemon that learn Sand Attack, and other Pokemon that can paralyze as well. So it's very, very useful to have that when you're doing a run like this. The Super Nerd is the boss of this area. I picked up Mega Punch the TM. He happened to disable it. Not that I'm going to use it on him right now. Ember's better because his poison types have lower special than they do defense. This particular one right here, Voltorb, was very, 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 very difficult, because even though Sonic Boom can miss, even though Screech can miss and Tackle can miss, I kept getting the worst RNG in the world. It would not miss. It would not miss. And this is what I was talking about earlier. When you're doing like a run through like this, sometimes you get really, really lucky. You can manipulate RNG. You need a critical hit, you can manipulate a critical hit. But what if that critical hit doesn't knock them out? Then you have to manipulate a miss with their tackle attack or whatever attack they're using. I just could not get this Voltorb to save my life. But unfortunately, I don't have any other option. I have to do this battle. It's a boss encounter, or a mini boss if you want to consider it, but he is the boss of this area. He's the last trainer, and you have to battle him to pass through. So there you have it. We got through Voltorb. Not a fun time. Not the best time in the world. Also, the skull and crossbones is on Coughing's forehead when it should be on its belly. Hopefully you'll never unsee that again. Hopefully I ruined that for you. Haha. Again, just showing multiple resets that continuously occur within these boss battles. You just need to be aware that I had to reset quite a bit of the battles. It was not a fun time. Regardless, to that point, it didn't matter because I was able to overcome. I went to Vermilion City. First thing I did was grab this rare candy. It will be very important in the end game. We'll want the rare candies for leveling out our Pokemon. And then I decided to go to the Pokemon Center and heal my Pokemon. Now the question is, do I go and face Misty first, or do I go and face the rival first? And that's a fantastic question. So, honestly, the odds are in my favor to face the rival and get more XP. So, after I arrived in Vermilion City, I decided that it'd probably be the best idea to get some more experience. So, I wanted to challenge the rival first, because I think that the rival gives out quite a lot of experience. Now, this is technically a boss battle, because you can't pass this area without fighting it. So, mini boss or boss, whatever you want to call it. Pidgeotto starts off with Sand Attack. That's okay. Not really the biggest deal. I don't like it, though. So, what ended up happening is that if you take the Sand Attacks, you just have to manipulate RNG even more. So, it makes the battles go on a long time. I'll consistently talk about it in this playthrough. Just know that anytime it happens, it's extremely annoying. Abra is free XP, so in the event that you're wanting to do this, it's one of the easiest and nice break that you would have in between Pokemon and manipulating RNG. One of the very few in the run, but regardless, it's really, really nice when it does happen. So the rival does have 4 Pokemon: Rattata, Abra, Pidgeotto, and Starter. Whatever starter, you know, that would be the opposite of what you picked. This battle went on quite a bit longer, and I edited it down because I don't want to waste your guys' time. Everything you see in this has been edited down quite a bit. I know I said I was going to keep boss battles mostly intact, but my god, there are some boss battles where the RNG was not nice to me, and it took quite a long time to beat them. So eventually I got through the rival, and I decided, why not? Let's clear out the gym, and we'll challenge Misty. So yes, I did actually beat all of the trainers before I challenged Misty. I am still drastically under-leveled here. I'm level 16, and it all comes down to outspeeding. Do I outspeed? And no, I do not. So it's time to reset, and we go take on Nugget Bridge. I'm not going to show the battles with the other trainers. They don't have any unique or special Pokemon. They are just for XP. The next mini-boss is the Rocket, who offers you to join Team Rocket, but you can't ever accept, which it always bothers me, you know. Wouldn't you love to be able to join Team Rocket? I know I would. He has an Ekans. The biggest threat is Wrap, but Wrap is not 100% accurate, so Wrap can miss, which we take advantage of. You can manipulate RNG so that it misses. Poison Sting is 100% accurate, and it does not miss. But one thing that I didn't mention before is that there is the 1 in 256 chance of missing any attack, no matter how accurate it is, unless it has no accuracy like Swift. So you can inevitably manipulate RNG if you want to try and get that. It does happen in runs more than a few times, but less than like 20 or 30 times. So take it for what it's worth. I beat the Rocket. He gave me the Nugget as a reward, which, I mean, I don't really need money that bad unless I'm buying TMs. I go to re-challenge Misty here, which, again, it's going to be a somewhat difficult battle to overcome. This one in particular was the one I was alluding to when I was talking about RNG not being nice to you with Sand Attack. In this one, RNG in particular really gave me the finger and told me to go suck a fat one. This one was very, very difficult. I had to reset 40 separate times before I finally got the golden run, and all it was 3 turns. That's all I needed. The Staryu was more difficult than the Starmie. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. Misty goes for X Defend on first turn. Fantastic. I can Thunder Wave. I can Paralyze RNG. And that's all I need to do. We get a few fully paralyzed turns, which is just really fantastic. Makes the run go well. But I did have to eventually reset a couple times on Starmie too. But I want to say I only had to reset like 5 or 6 times on Starmie. But on Staryu, it was like 40 separate times. It was ridiculous. One of the most difficult and agonizing battles I've done in this entire run. It's ironic because Misty usually is the wall on a lot of these runs. Because it's just early enough to not be strong enough to just bulldoze through. So, the next mini-boss being this trainer right here before you get to Bill. I can't remember if you can walk past her or not, but I'm pretty sure you can't. She's not difficult at all, so it's very strange that you would have to battle her. But regardless, her mons kind of suck to deal with because, again, grass types have things like Stun Spore, Sleep Powder, Poison Powder. You don't want any of them. They aren't 100% accurate, so that's really nice. The unfortunate thing here is that they also have high specials, so it's going to be very difficult for you to one-shot, even if you have Charmeleon. But not impossible. Not completely impossible to get a higher roll on every hit. If you don't know about high rolls, Pokemon calculates damage with a low roll and a high roll. Sometimes you can do a little bit more, sometimes you can do a little bit less. So sometimes if you are trying to manipulate RNG, you can manipulate the rolls that you get also. So let's say you need 5 more damage, you might be able to manipulate 5 more damage. So her Pokemon aren't very difficult at all to get through, and I was able to get through them pretty well. Even though I have Mega Punch, Ember is still a better option because of the stab and the super effective state, which effectively makes it over 100 base power, so it's good to use on grass types. Just know that it's not going to be a one-hitter quitter because of their high special. The next mini boss is the Rocket here. Again, I'm not going to waste your time with all the trainers that I fought, that I grinded against. Just know that I wasn't fighting wild Pokemon. I was only battling trainers. This one has a Machop and a Drowsy. Both are very, very annoying to do in this run because Machop pretty much is consistently going to use attacking moves. And so you, again, have to manipulate Thunder Wave and RNG, and that's just not fun to do. Sometimes you get lucky with critical hit, sometimes you don't. The Drowsy was a one-hitter quitter, so I just cut it a little bit short, and I continued down south to Vermilion City. I wanted to add in this one optional battle, and I wanted to note that it's very, very important for people whenever they're playing Red and Blue that this is one of the only ways to see Butterfree in the game. This is one of the only trainers that has Butterfree, and it's some fantastic experience, and it's pretty easy to battle Butterfree and get through it. The only problem that you might face is the powders. Again, it's similar to the grass type situation, and it's fully evolved Pokemon. But it's fantastic experience, so I stopped and made sure to get it. But you can see how the battle went there. It wasn't too difficult to get through. Only had to reset maybe twice. So the next mini bosses are this guy and his girlfriend. His girlfriend had 3 Pidgeys. I didn't feel like including that battle because it's literally just 3 Pidgeys. If you wanted to see it, it's just Pikachu Thunder Shocking 3 Pidgeys to death very easily. Same with Spearow here. His Spearow goes down, and then it's Raticate. Raticate's somewhat difficult, but because he's such a low level, you can easily get through here. So we manipulate RNG with Thunder Wave again. Try to go for a Parahax. We get very, very lucky first turn Parahax. Paralysis is a 1 in 4th chance in Pokemon Red and Blue. I originally thought it was 50-50, but it's actually 1 in 4. So it is what it is. You can eventually roll for that 1/4. And Raticate wasn't really a problem. He's got pretty low special, so I was able to Thunder Shock him down. I went and I bought a couple Pokeballs and I bought a couple Repels because I want to catch a Duck Trio. If you didn't know, you can get a Duck Trio in the Diglett Tunnel. All you have to do is use a Repel and Duck Trio will appear. It was very, very fast for me. But even if you don't want to use a Repel, eventually you usually find at least one. They're usually pretty high leveled. It's a fully evolved Pokemon, and it's very, very hard to capture with Pokeballs only. Even a Great Ball, it's very hard to capture. This one in particular is going to help us with Lieutenant Surge a lot and the game overall. I named it 19 because that's how many Pokeballs it took to capture this Pokemon. Very, very difficult and not fun. Finally, we're on to St. Anne, and it's going to be a very, very long journey on the St. Anne. A lot of grinding with trainers. So I continued forward in the St. Anne. I grabbed the free Great Ball in the trash, and then I went and battled the rival once again. Now, the St. Anne itself, you can fight every trainer. You don't have to fight any trainers. There's literally no boss battle, so this could be considered the mini boss or the boss battle of the ship. But if you do skip all of the trainers, you're throwing away a lot of XP. If you have an electric type like Pikachu, you'll be able to absolutely decimate or destroy it. I mean, if you have a grass type too, it's pretty easy. So I always go through, defeat all the trainers, but I'm not going to show the footage. Once again, you can see what's happening with the rival. Nothing new here. Pidgeotto, shenanigans with Quick Attack and Sand Attack. And then, because I have 19, which is Duck Trio, and because the speed is so ridiculous in this game, there's literally nothing that can stop me anymore. I mean, there are a few challenging Pokemon that will give me issues, but Duck Trio almost sweeps everything. And with Pikachu having Body Slam, and eventually we'll be getting Thunderbolt, I mean, this run becomes significantly easier after the second gym in St. Anne. So I beat the rival, it was no problem whatsoever, and I rubbed the captain's back, getting a cut HM, which is necessary for progression in the original games. And did you know that if you leave the St. Anne after you beat the rival and you get cut, that it will never come back in the original games, and you can never get access to this area again? A long time ago, people used to think Mew was under the truck, and the only way you could get to Mew is if you fainted and you were teleported outside of the Poké Center, and then you came back later on with Surf. But that was a myth. Whatever. Eventually, I decided to come out and catch a Spearow so that I could trade it for a Farfetch'd, which is Ducks. And Ducks is very, very good for the fact that it's flying, it's normal, so it gets stabbed on those. And it also gets the ability to learn Cut, because it has a leak and it can cut things, I guess. I don't know. The trade process in the original games is pretty funny, man, because you can actually see the original Game Boys hooked up with a link cable. It's really hilarious. Like, they actually show you, like, oh, this is a Pokeball being sucked up into a pipe and transferred, but then it pans to two Game Boys with a link cable. It's absolutely hilarious. I love it. And honestly, it is perfect. So if you've never seen this animation, here you go. I don't mean to waste your time, but it's just funny seeing classic things like this, because there's a few in-game trades that you can do, but outside of that, you might have never have seen it. And if you never traded, then you absolutely would have never seen it. So, continuing forward, I just taught Ducks Cut, which is okay, but in Gen 1, Cut is awful. It is horrendous. It does not have full accuracy, and its base power is like 50, so it's genuinely, it is not worth using. Ducks will learn Slash, but because you need Cut to progress in this game, all throughout the game, you have to keep it. So I go into Surge's gym, I find the first lock, and wouldn't you know it, the second lock is like all the way in the top left corner, which is absolutely crazy, but there you go, I found it. So here's the easiest battle I had in the entire game, and I'll explain why I decided to get Dugtrio for this gym alone. I could have done this gym without Dugtrio, I really could have. It would have sucked, but I would have eventually got through it, right? But with Dugtrio, not only do I outspeed almost all of his mons, if not all of his mons outright, but I have access to dig, and all I have to do is dig, and boom, they're gone. I am literally showing you unedited footage of the entire battle. This is literally how the battle went. Because Gen 1 bases its critical hits off of speed, Dugtrio is one of the fastest Pokemon in the game. Dugtrio has access to Slash, which is critical hit boosted. So not only are you fast in getting the speed boost for critical hit ratio, but you're also getting a boost with Slash. So Slash will come in clutch later, but because he's a ground type, he also gets access to ground type moves. Speed plus ground type, bada bing, bada boom. He's one of the best Pokemon in the game. And he makes Lieutenant Surge look like a joke. I got the bike voucher from the old man. I listened to him explain how he's not a brony. Then I went over to this section and defeated all the trainers there. As I was coming back through, I decided to battle the junior trainer because it's one of the only spots that you can actually see Squirtle if you didn't have a rival that had Squirtle. So if you needed to see Squirtle, this would be the spot. This would be the trainer you would talk to see Squirtle. One of the only. So there you go. There you have it. And once again, now that Pikachu knows Thunderbolt, it makes quick work of that Pokemon. The only problem I had in this run, and it was for quite a long time, is that I actually didn't have access to a good fire move. Ember is at best okay and usable, but is by far not good. And you don't learn Flamethrower until like level 38 with Charizard, I think. Maybe even further than that. I can't remember. It might have even be 48. But I know it is an excessively long time before you learn Ember. And this causes my biggest problems when I'm facing Pokemon like the grass types. Because of their high special, you can't just one-hit or quitter them with an Ember attack. And even though they do have fairly low defense at times, Mega Punch isn't going to one-hit KO because it's not stat boosted most of the time. So the biggest issue that I had in this run, which was my greatest ally in the beginning, was my Charmander choice. Charmeleon, if you will. And it's really, really depressing and unfortunate because Charizard is the absolute best starter of Gen 1 in regards to overall stats. It learns Slash, it is the fastest, gets the fastest speed boosts, so it has the critical hit boosted ratio and speed behind it, and it also learns Flamethrower. So it is one of, if not the absolute best starter, where Blastoise only gets Bite and Skull Bash, and yeah, that's it. And then, of course, you have Venusaur with Razor Leaf, but it's not that fast, and it gets Toxic and Leech Seed, so it's debatable on who's the absolute best, but yeah. So this Bug Catcher is one of the mini-bosses that you absolutely have to fight here, and honestly, I wasn't even going to include it, but I'm just trying to show you guys how easy these battles become, how trivial they become. Where I was just explaining how Ember's not strong enough, it basically sweeps the Bug Catcher like he's absolutely nothing. Of course, again, you know he is using Weedle and a Caterpie, and he will be using a Venonat as well, so it's not as if he has good Pokemon or anything. Regardless, though, it is one of the trainers that you have to face to progress in this area. So, again, just pointing out the fact that this is not exactly footage that you guys need to be seeing consistently, and as we go into the future, I'm not going to be showing every single battle or even mini boss, especially if they're not worth being shown. I pick up this free Super Potion, heal my Pokemon there at the Poke Center, and I go into Dark Cave. Now, if you didn't know this either, you do not need Flash to get through Dark Cave, as long as you know where you're going. So one of the first trainers that battles you actually has two Pokemon that you may not have encountered yet, or if you did, it was only once or twice. So he has a Cubone. Cubone cannot hit flying types. For quite some time, Cubone and Marowak cannot hit flying types. They just don't know any moves outside of ground moves. So they have to use status conditions, which means free KO for us, free experience for Ducks. And then, you know, you have Slowpoke, which gets completely walled and destroyed by Pikachu because Pikachu can just run Thunderbolt and it's over with. Even though Slowpoke is bulky, and later on Slowbro is significantly bulky, 2 Thunderbolts will end these Pokemon, if not 1 Thunderbolt. And again, Pikachu has speed behind it, so it's critical hit boosted. Thunderbolt, I mean, there's no chance that it's going to be living that. There are a couple other battles here that are considered mini-bosses, and as I said before, as much as I would like to display every mini-boss battle, this video would probably end up being like 3 hours if I showed every single mini-boss battle. It's almost as if when we go forward with this video, and I keep showing these battles and how I'm like annihilating these Pokemon, it almost feels like it's not even a no-hit run, like it's just a regular run. Like, this is exactly what would happen in Pokemon Red if I was just playing Pokemon Red regularly. It's just, I am absolutely decimating these Pokemon. The next boss encounter, or mini-boss encounter of this cave, is a junior trainer. And outside of this, I think there's only one more that you have to battle. This trainer was somewhat annoying because she had the grass types with poison powders and stun spores and sleep powder again, so you know, it's a little bit annoying, a little bit difficult to sit there and mess with that. Again, one of the reasons I feel like she's a mini boss and you have to encounter her is to see Bulbasaur, because it's one of the few times that you can actually optionally see a Bulbasaur. But at this point in time in Pokemon, I don't think they were forcing everyone to see every Pokemon in the Pokedex, so it's all mostly optional. I mean, there are some trainers that you can see in Erika's gym that run Bulbasaur, but the point is still there. And so I get to the final mini-boss, which is right before the exit of Dark Cave. The worst part about Dark Cave is trying to get through it and not run out of power points for all of your Pokemon. You will probably run low, and you will probably want to make sure to use the ether that you get properly. But once again, if you have a couple Pokemon with you, you won't have to run back to the Pokemon Center, which just is a time waster, a time sink, to either heal or restore your power points. Sure, you can buy potions, but you can't buy either. You have to find it. So again, the same trainers, the same Pokemon. As I stated before, I'm not going to continuously show these battles over and over again. I'm only going to highlight some of the most important battles going forward here. The game is getting to the point where we're almost halfway finished anyways, so it's not as if, you know, you're missing out on anything. I mean, my god, here is the, 20th Pidgey that has been thunderbolted, thundershocked to death by Pikachu, right? No harm, no foul, still haven't taken a single hit of damage, and we make it out of Dark Cave. I get a free max ether, and then I decide to go and take on the rival right at Lavender Town after I heal my Pokemon at the Pokemon Center. Now, this rival is incredibly difficult if it has a Gyarados, but this one does not because he has Wartortle instead. The rival always leads with a variation of Pidgey, Pidgeotto, or Pidgeot, and this is Pidgeotto once again. Pidgeotto has Sand Attack, Quick Attack, Gust, things like that. So it's going to be really annoying. At best possible result would be it uses Whirlwind, but because I can outspeed and I can use Thunderbolt, it's just going to be straight up one-hit KO. So it really doesn't matter. This rival isn't particularly difficult because it doesn't have Gyarados, but if it had Gyarados, it wouldn't really be that difficult anyways because of Thunderbolt. It would only be difficult if you didn't have Thunderbolt. 19 makes short work of a Growlithe, and Dux makes quick work of an Execute also. But why is Execute so big in Gen 1? Why is there like one egg that's just giant? I always wonder about these designs. This rival caused me to reset only a couple times. For the most part, I was able to get through it without too many hiccups. And again, thanks to some overpowered moves like Thunderbolt, it really isn't an issue when he inevitably sends out Wartortle or Kadabra. Kadabra's a glass cannon because Kadabra is very, very scary, being fast, psychic, able to do some sweeping, especially Alakazam later. But again, if you can outspeed, if you can hit his mons hard, they aren't so bulky that they can resist a single hit encounter, which is really nice for a no-hit run. Now, unfortunately, we don't have what we need to do the rest of Lavender Tower, so we're going to have to go to Celadon City. When you go through this route, there's tons of trainers that you can battle. One of the only mandatory battles is either one of these trainers, one or the other. You can do both, but you do absolutely have to do one. I am trying to level up Dux at this point in time because Dux will come clutch later on. It is very important. I don't really need Dux. I could obviously rely just on Pikachu and Dugtrio. But the point is, later on when I get into the Elite Four territory, I'm going to need every Pokemon I have because I'm going to be under-leveled. And that is simply due to the fact that I am not grinding and I'm not doing every single trainer. I'm doing almost every single trainer, but there are some trainers that I don't have to battle, and thus I will skip. But for the most part, I would say I probably battled 95% of the trainers in this game. This guy's no problem. He just has 2 fire types, which, again, pretty easy. I pick up a Nugget in the underground path. This is just free money. And then as soon as I arrive in Celadon City, I go ahead and grab Eevee. And I name it the correct name, which is Breedable, because I'm going to end up evolving it into a Vaporeon. I pick up Pokédoll for later. I will need that for Lavender Tower, and then I evolve my Eevee into Vaporeon with the Water Stone that I purchased. This is going to be very, very important because I don't have access to a Water-type Pokemon until past the 4th or 5th gym. I taught a couple TMs to my Pokemon, Ice Beam, Rock Slide. I could teach Tri-Attack, but I don't want to because it doesn't get the same boost, and Tri-Attack works different in Gen 1. When you go to the gym, the leaf gym, the grass type gym, Erika is in there, and you do really only have to battle 1 trainer. You might absolutely have to battle 2, but I'm pretty sure you can get away with battling just 1 and then going up to Erika and talking to Erika. Could be wrong, so feel free to correct me in the comments. Erika as a gym leader, is hilariously weak. She is just like Lieutenant Surge. There is a great number of ways that you can take her down because she uses grass types, but because Gen 1 has dual poison for 2 of her Pokemon, you are limited in how to take her down. It's not just straight grass. So the easiest way would be fire, flying, psychic, or ice. You can use any of those. If for whatever reason you pick it up an Abra and you wanted to run a Kadabra on your no-hit run, that's a fantastic idea. Kadabra is very, very fast, and Psychic isn't resisted. I didn't pick up one. I probably should have, ultimately, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, my team worked out. I got 3 Swords Dances off before I attacked her Victory Bell, 1 peck. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you are stupid enough to battle somebody and you let them get 3 Swords Dances off before you do anything, you deserve your loss, especially if it's a physical sweeper like Ducks. So Ducks can learn Swords Dance, which is fantastic, but if you're trying to use the critical hit hacks, it doesn't work that way, mainly because critical hits ignore any type of boosts that you have, and they ignore any stat uppers. So if your opponent had max defense and you were doing no damage, you could get a critical hit and bypass that. So like I said, Ducks just one-shots everything with Peck because the Swords Dance. So again, it's hilarious. I went ahead and grabbed Fly so that I could teach Ducks it. Ducks will have a better attack. Ducks will be able to fly me places. Went to Lavender Town. Here's an example of literally every single battle in this tower. This Chandler has a Ghastly because there's only 3 ghost types in the game, only 2 in the tower. These are a representation of every single battle you have. Ghost type moves don't affect normal types. Ducks is normal. So the only attack that can affect me is Confuse Ray or Nightshade. So I outspeed most of the time. One Chandler had a Haunter. Here's exactly what happened with Haunter. Just because it's an evolved mon doesn't mean it has better defense. So I encountered a ghost, and I thought, boy, this is a weird ghost. Why don't I just give it a Pokédoll? So I gave it a Pokédoll, and it left. Yeah, that glitch actually does work. And it works in my favor, and I don't care what you say. I battled every single trainer here. I battled the Team Rocket Grunts up top. They didn't have any Pokemon that would be challenging or difficult. Many of them had like Zubats, Coughings, one of them had a Golbat, but I have Thunderbolts, so I'm not going to sit here and waste your guys' time watching these mundane battles. Just know I beat them all and I didn't take any damage because Team Rocket's a joke in Gen 1. I got the Pokeflute, which is necessary to progress, and then I decided to go take on Silph Co. Silph Co's pretty easy. All things considered, their levels are pretty low here, and you can get a lot of experience if you battle every trainer here. I'm going to spare you every battle. You only have to battle one trainer to get the card key, which is this one. He just has a poison type, Arbok. Very easily taken down with a ground move. Nothing difficult, no challenge whatsoever. So there it is. You get the card key and you can go straight to the rival, and you only have to battle 3 trainers in this whole area. So after I got the card key in Silph Co, I realized I didn't evolve my Pikachu for some reason. I wasn't really waiting to evolve it. Like, it wasn't going to learn any moves. So I decided to go back and get the Thunderstone and evolve it before I battled the rival. Now, at this point in time, I did take out all of the trainers in Silph Co. You didn't miss anything, I assure you. It was all kinds of Team Rocket Grunts, and they were all pretty low leveled. His first Pokemon is Pidgeot, as always, some variation of Pidgeotto, Pidgeot. I use Sand Attack so that it'll miss its attack. I can manipulate RNG a bit, and Vaporeon can easily clean up with Ice Beam, which is fantastic. Ice Beam is GOAT. That's why I have Vaporeon instead of waiting till I get to Fuchsia City to get a Water type. His next Pokemon is going to be Growlithe, and it's going to be Growlithe for a while. It won't be Arcanine for quite some time. So, again, not particularly difficult to take out, but it does outspeed because we are significantly lower leveled. And even though I did take out tons of Rocket Grunts, I still need more experience because I do actually have a full team on this run instead of just having like 2 or 3 Pokemon. that get all of the experience. So, without a problem, we take out Growlithe, 2 Bubble Beams, and the next one is going to be Execute, as per usual. Once again, it is not that difficult to take out. 2 Embers will finish it. Sometimes you get lucky, maybe 1 Ember with a critical hit. It goes for Hypnosis. Hypnosis is only 55% accurate in Gen 1, so it misses like crazy, and I take it out with Charizard. Yes, Charmeleon evolved, so we have Charizard now. Charizard outspeeds, is faster, and is with Slash Attack at this point in time. So that's really, really good. I unfortunately, even with the crit, do not finish Alakazam. It hangs on with 1 HP, which is very, very scary considering how fast it is. But another Slash will finish it, even if he Recover spams. The worst outcome would have been like Reflect and Recover, but he didn't do that. So we're moving on to Blastoise. Blastoise is extremely bulky, so 1 Thunderbolt won't finish it. We're going to need to paralyze it to make sure it can't attack us, can't hit us, or to ensure that it does miss. And there you have it. Again, 2 Thunderbolts will finish Blastoise. And that'll be the end of the rival. We finish the rival off again. This is very good XP. It's very, very nice. And that's, again, a battle finished. Another one, another milestone. There's only a very few trainers that you actually have to fight in Silph Co, as I stated before. This one in particular always made me laugh because it's right before the boss. And I don't think I make any cuts to this battle. Like, this is how easy this battle is, and this is what I'm talking about. So at this point in time, you should be in your mid-30s to high 30s and even low 40s, right? And the Rocket Grunts have Pokemon ranging from like level 20s to 30s, and this is not a challenge. It is literally an XP farm, right? But because I have so many Pokemon, I don't have massive experience. If you do recall, when I went through Lavender Tower, I didn't grind any of the ghost Pokemon, right? Because I couldn't, because I didn't get the Silph Scope. And again, we skipped getting the Silph Scope, so I didn't actually have to go through and do the game corner. Instead, I just used the Pokédoll to bypass it. So, again, just showing how different things can be depending on your level. So, me being a much, much lower level doesn't make Silph Co a challenge even still, because their levels are just so low. It almost makes it on par with me. So, like, Vaporeon being level 30, it can actually gain experience and have decent battles here. Even if I am going for a no damage run, it's still important to acknowledge that. So Vaporeon cleans up, destroys Cubone and Marowak, and that was the guy guarding the boss. It's just so funny to me. And then we're moving on to Giovanni. Now, this Giovanni battle is going to be an extreme challenge if you didn't pick up somebody that can outspeed, like an Alakazam or a Dugtrio. But if you did pick up a Dugtrio, like I had mentioned earlier, you can absolutely annihilate him. Almost all of his Pokemon are weak to ground attacks, except for Kangaskhan. So, like I said, Nidorino, absolutely destroyed by a ground attack. It's part poison. Nidoqueen, part poison. Rhyhorn, rock. So it's going to get destroyed. And Kangaskhan ultimately is really just a 2-hit. So there's not going to be a lot of resistance here. You just have to finish it off with a 2-hit Earthquake attack, which is perfectly fine. It's a perfectly acceptable result. It's something that you should acknowledge, though, when you're doing your playthrough, and if you, too, are trying to go for a no-damage run. So, 19 hits the Earthquake, and of course, he's going to get a pretty decent roll. It's not over half, but it's not under, so it'll definitely finish with 2. I go for the Slash just to conserve Earthquakes. Slash gets a critical hit because of the speed, and Kangaskhan misses with Rage, which is fantastic. Then we're going to go back into Breedable just for more XP farming, more XP opportunities. We will need Vaporeon's Ice Beam later on, no matter what happens. Even if we do have Dugtrio, we still need the Ice Beam. When he goes into Nidoqueen's supposed to be like his ace, even though Kangaskhan's kind of still pretty good. But Nidoqueen gets absolutely destroyed by Earthquake, so once again, proving what I said before, just Earthquake almost everything in the game and you win. It was at this point in time that I realized I probably should have a fighting type on my team. Even though I do have like Raichu to handle Lorelei in the future, a fighting type would only strengthen us. But the actual reason behind it is I need a Pokemon that can learn Strength. And yes, there are several Pokemon that I could choose to learn Strength. I would also like one that I could actually use for something. So by getting a Hitmonlee, we can teach it Strength, and it also will learn a couple fighting moves. Some of the only exclusive fighting moves in Gen 1. If you didn't know, Hitmonlee like learns most of the fighting moves in Gen 1. I think Low Kick is the only other one outside of Submission, which a couple Pokemon can learn Submission, like Poliwrath can learn Submission, Machoke, Machop, Machamp can learn Submission. And then Hitmonlee can learn moves like Double Kick, Rolling Kick, Jump Kick, and High Jump Kick. And almost no other Pokemon can learn those moves. Only a couple Pokemon can learn Double Kick. So it's pretty useful. It'll be useful in the future. Good against Ice types, good against Rock types, good against normal types. So it'll be very, very useful in the future. So we're on to Sabrina. Sabrina is the 5th gym leader in some people's playthroughs. Some people challenge her first. Really, I view her as the 5th and Koga as the 6th. But her first Pokemon is Kadabra, and a lot of her Psychic Pokemon do have support moves, which she will use over an actual attacking move, which is perfectly fine with me. It allows me to set up an Agility, which is going to not only badge boost me, but also allow me to outspeed and increase my critical hit rate for when I do encounter Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime sets up Barrier, Light Screens, and then she also has other mons that can set up Reflect. Again, as I stated before, one of the most annoying things about Gen 1 is that you do actually need Cut to progress the game in certain areas, and you do have to keep it for a while. And once you have it, you can't delete HMs, or at least without cheats. So Dux is great for that, but then when he goes to learn Slash, you shouldn't teach him Slash because he already has Cut, but Cut just sucks. So ultimately, you're just relying on him more for Fly than anything else. And then finally, she sends out her Alakazam. After I destroyed her with Dux, Alakazam is the last one that I am going to battle. Using Sand Attack is going to ensure that she will miss. We can abuse RNG if we absolutely have to. I'd rather not. But Fly is going to be a 2-hitter quitter unless she spams Recover, which is exactly what she's going to do. Literally the only thing that she would be able to spam that would be good for me is Reflect, but Reflect halves physical damage. So it's not as if that would be the move either. So instead of using Fly, I decided to swap over to Cut, just for the simple fact that I wouldn't have to go 2 turns trying to figure out what the move was. But if she continues to recover, we're not going to make progress. So I had to get it to the point where she was spamming a Reflect instead. I went along and used the Poke Flute to wake up Snorlax. I'm not going to include a lot of those type of battles here, because there's no reason to. I forgot that I didn't actually pick up the bike. I still have the bike voucher, so let's go get the bicycle. So I grabbed the bike, used the bike voucher, and presented it, and I got me a free bicycle, yay. So I'm on the cycling road, and I know a lot of people are probably going to be like, we really wanted to see the battles, right? So here's a collage of exactly what would happen if I presented the battles to you. Except they would be much longer. So here you go. Earthquake, and Earthquake, and Earthquake. Are you guys seeing a trend? Earthquake. It's Earthquake again. And there you go. We made it through the cycling road. I decided to come down here, challenge these 3 bird keepers. They are good experience, but again, I'm not gonna show all of the battles. I'm gonna show you one of them, just for the simple fact that At this point in time, I can not only outspeed, but I can outspeed with multiple Pokemon. I could use Dugtrio with Rock Slide, I could use Raichu with Thunderbolt, or I could use the Vaporeon with Ice Beam. Ice Beam works very, very well. I'm trying to get experience with Vaporeon. Fearow does outspeed, but it uses Mirror Move because it's an idiot. I don't know. In this game, doesn't work the way other gens work, so Mirror Move goes first. So I heal up my Pokemon, and it's time to challenge Koga, the 6th Gym Leader. Koga is a ninja who states that he's going to show us the despair of sleep and poison, but none of his Pokemon actually can put you to sleep, so that was very, very funny. I mean, honestly, bro, I really don't understand. You can poison me, but unfortunately, yet again, just like the Cycling Road, I'm just going to Earthquake every single one of his Pokemon into oblivion. I don't mean to spoil the battle or diminish the accomplishment here, that we've gotten to the 6th Gym Leader without taking a hit, but the point that needs to be focused on is that I literally did just sweep the entire Cycling Road with like one Pokemon, and all it took was several Earthquakes. And the same with Koga. All it's going to take is several Earthquakes to take out his Pokemon because he only has Poison types. He doesn't have Venomoth, he doesn't have Nidoqueen, Nidoking, he doesn't have Golbat, he doesn't have a Beedrill. There are tons of Poison Pokemon. There's a plethora of choices he could have chose. A Vileplume, a Victory Bell. He just doesn't have any of them. I don't know why. Don't ask me. But we beat Koga, and then we do have to go into the Safari Zone. We need to get the Warden's Golden Teeth so that we can get Strength, and we do need to get the Surf HM because we do actually need to go Surf. So I decided to teach Surf to Breedable, and then I gave the Warden his teeth, and now Lee's Nuts knows how to move boulders, which is something important. So on this route, once again, I'm just going to show you a collage of what actually happened here. We're just training for XP. We're just beating trainers for XP. So here's a nice collage for you. Boom. Boom. Another one bites the dust. And another one bites the dust. And another one down. And another one down. Another one bites the dust. Hey, he's going to get you too. Another one bites the dust. And that's like literally what is happening right here. Like, this is why I'm not showing every single battle. There were some unique Pokemon here, but not too many. PTSD Wigglytuff and the Raichu that I actually have. These were 2 unique Pokemon. Pretty cool. Alright. But other than that, it was Pokemon you've already seen. And again, we didn't take damage. So I decided to go to the beach. And I don't know if this is going to be a shocker to you, haha, pun intended, because I'm going to literally electrocute every water Pokemon I encounter. Like, every water Pokemon's getting a Thunderbolt. And that's exactly what I did. So, all of the Tentacle, all of the Tentacruel, all of the Shelters, Horsies, all of the Sea Kings, Gyarados, every water type I encounter is getting a Thunderbolt. So after arriving at the beach, I battled a couple trainers, and I just want to give you a quick rundown of exactly how it's going to happen from this point forward for the most part. It's going to be Thunderbolt, Thunderbolt, Thunderbolt. So here's a quick little collage for you if you were curious how it went, and you were saying to yourself, oh, what if he actually took a hit? No. Not even remotely close. I defeated every trainer along this whole strip. Along Cinnabar, along Seafoam Island, and I went to Cinnabar. Healed my Pokemon up. Went into the mansion. If you didn't know, there's a Moonstone here. No idea why. I battled every trainer in here, and again, not to do the whole collage thing, but it basically is that. I encountered many fire-type trainers, and even though it would have been easier to just do this with Vaporeon, I needed to level up Lee's Nuts here so that he could get some more experience. I decided to jump off a balcony because I'm actually crazy. And then I found a secret key, and I was like, well, this is labeled secret key, so obviously I should pick it up. And hey, wouldn't you know, it's the key to the gym leader. So if you guys didn't know this, you can actually do the quizzes, and you don't have to battle the trainers in this gym. But if you did want to battle the trainers, even though you did the quiz, you could just talk to the trainers. I battled all of them, and to your surprise, maybe, I one-shot them all with Surf. So, again, not the most challenging gym in Kanto, but really none of them actually are. It's just some of the gym leaders are difficult. Blaine leads with Growlithe there, and then Ponyta. Ponyta and Rapidash are going to be the problem because they outspeed, and I'm pretty sure Arcanine outspeeds. Believe it or not, Vaporeon's actually pretty slow, so it's unfortunate that the water type I chose is not exactly fast, but we can get around that because obviously the AI is dumb most of the time. Even Gym Leader AI, which is supposed to be better, is still dumb. So we get hit with things like Growl and Tail Whip. And, of course, moves can just miss. And, you know, at the end of the battle, you have the showdown with the ace Pokemon, or supposedly, and it's supposed to be like Arcanine here. But for whatever reason, Blaine uses a Super Potion. I did not edit that in. He literally used a Super Potion retroactively before I attacked him. I can't make this stuff up, chat. I can't make this stuff up, YouTube. I can't make this stuff up wherever you're watching from. I just can't. He literally retroactively used a Super Potion twice, even before getting damaged. So there you go. Blaine is finished. No problem there. We're going to continue up north. And I just wanted to show you again, just in case people were questioning whether or not I actually battled these trainers. And I absolutely did, and they were absolutely destroyed. I made my way up to Viridian after battling all the trainers on that strip as well. And I battled everyone in Giovanni's gym. I didn't feel the need to show that because, again, they're just Pokemon that we've seen. I think the only new one that you would see here would be like Tauros, maybe, if you didn't see it in the Safari Zone. So there you go. I just didn't want to waste your time because this video is quite long. We're already approaching over an hour. Giovanni's 8 gym leaders, so this is the last of the gym leaders. This one in particular is not difficult whatsoever. Giovanni's probably the easiest gym leader, as insane as that sounds. But at this point in time in the game, you already have your Pokemon that are leveled up like crazy. So you can use any number of tactics. Almost all of his Pokemon are weak to ground moves, with the exception of Dugtrio, but Dugtrio is insanely weak to flying because it has no moves that can hit flyers. I'm pretty sure, I'm almost positive it doesn't have Slash for whatever reason. I think it has Fissure instead, and like Earthquake, or I don't know. You could look up his moveset. Long story short, he couldn't hit Ducks here, which is a flying type. And he actually does have Slash, he just wasn't using it. So, again, so much for Gym Leader AI. The point is that you can just use, like, Earthquake, 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 and Surf, or like Razor Leaf, and beat Giovanni. Or if you just wanted to, you could just Surf him, if you can outspeed. Both the Nidos go down to Earthquake, and then his final Mon is going to end up being Rhydon, which, you know, he's weak to Earthquake, he's weak to Surf, he's weak to Razor Leaf, he's weak to any grass move. I mean, even Psychic moves would probably obliterate his team because they're not particularly strong on special, and the ones that are weak to Psychic moves. So, again, you know, and also his Rhydon was illegal because it was level 50, and you're supposed to be level 55 before Rhyhorn evolves. So there you go. Nice little tidbit of information. He also is a cheater, but he does run Team Rocket, so I would expect that. So we're on the final rival battle before the Elite Four. And this one is insanely easy. I have never been able to figure out what Game Freak were attempting with this battle in particular. He does lead with Pidgeot, and Pidgeot does outspeed Vaporeon, so we do have to hope for Whirlwinds. Whirlwinds are the best result because other than that, he just will attack you, so, you know, you just want Whirlwinds. And then out of nowhere, he uses a potion, which, again, I don't know what the programming idea was, because he has Pokemon that are weaker than Giovanni. Like, literally, his Rhyhorn is weaker than Giovanni's Rhyhorn and Rhydon that you literally just battled like 2 minutes ago, right? So, he has unevolved Pokemon at this stage, in time. Not sure, again, because we just beat Arcanine, so why wouldn't he have an Arcanine? And I guess maybe Executor would be just too much for us to take on at this point. I don't know. I really don't know what they were going for. If you listen to their developmental blogs and their developmental process, you'll know that their computers kept crashing and they kept losing information and a lot of things like that. So this game is held together with hopes and dreams. And this battle went pretty easy. Overall, Alakazam gave me a little bit of trouble. Blastoise gave me a little bit of trouble, but overall, a couple resets later, and I was done. Once again, we've cleared all 8 gym leaders and the rival battle before the Elite Four without taking a single point of damage. So I'm going to take the long walk up the road. I wanted to take this moment to thank you for watching this video, and I wanted to thank all of those who viewed this live on Twitch. Because of how long it took me to edit this video, I have not been streaming. So instead of streaming more games and content for people who actually support me on Twitch, by donating, by subscribing, just by being there, I have to take this time to edit these videos because I do actually work a job. I'm employed currently at a steel mill, and it does take up like 8 to 16 hours. Sometimes I get mandatory overtime, other times I just have 8 hours. So still, it's difficult when I only have a couple hours off before I have to go to sleep. And my exercise regimen cuts into that, my family cuts into that. So I want to give a big shout out to the Twitch chat that you can see on the right hand side there, and without them this wouldn't be possible. So I went into Victory Road. I used Strength a couple times. I'd like to point out again, that's why I don't have a Psychic type. I have Lee's Nuts for this, so that I can move boulders. I battled a couple trainers. I'm not going to show all of the trainers. I'm just going to show you a couple of them, because most of them are optional here, believe it or not. If not all of them, but I do think you do have to face at least one of them, just due to the way the trainers are positioned. But outside of like that one, you do not have to face almost any of them. So a couple of them do have some like rare Pokemon like Charizard and Chansey. If you didn't, again, see Chansey at Safari Zone. So this is an opportunity to battle those rare Pokemon. A lot of these trainers have mono types. So like, you know, a full fighting team, a full water team, a full grass team, psychic team, things like that. So if you know what they have, it's not particularly difficult to overcome this stuff. All you have to do is play the odds, play RNG, fly to counter fighting types, you know, flamethrower on grass, electric on water. There's many tactics that you can take. But again, replicating this run is not impossible for you too. Why you would want to do it, I genuinely don't know, but it is a possibility. So case in point, if I showed you every single battle, at this point in time, you would probably be quite bored because it's just completely annihilating them. I'm not going to say that I'm one-shotting everything because I'm severely under-leveled in certain circumstances. But for the most part, I am one-shotting, and I am able to take out the enemy before they can even attempt to attack me. So to say that I wouldn't take a single point of damage is absolutely accurate because I didn't. I'm relying heavily on outspeeding. I'm relying heavily on the critical hits. But I'm also at the level of most of these trainers. Some of my Pokemon are just a little bit higher. But this only helps me here at Victory Road. As you'll see in the future when we get to the Elite Four, it's going to be incredibly difficult for me because the Elite Four are severely higher leveled than me. Usually by about 10 levels. And here's a perfect example of me not one-shotting. So again, there is the potential that I could be countered and I could take a point of damage. But for the most part, this final part of the run was fairly easy because of my level. I climbed out of Victory Road here and I came to the top, and just, if you guys didn't know, there was a full restore right there. And then I went through these statues that were randomly placed here. I've never understood that either. I feel like that's just something that Game Freak didn't clean up. I took my step in and healed my Pokemon for the last time. Although I didn't need to heal them, I just needed to restore the power points. And finally, it was time to face the Elite Four. Lorelei is up, and her first Pokemon is very, very bulky. It's a Dugong. Dugong is naturally high special, naturally highly defensive, and it is very, very bulky. It learns Rest. So I wanted to paralyze it right off rip before it rested and healed itself, and then I wanted to get some agilities off. Once again, it ended up resting the first turn and then was fully paralyzed. So I was able to get an agility off and hit it with Thunderbolt. But you have to understand and you have to realize that agility isn't a guaranteed critical hit. It just assists with the potential. So you can see that there are times where I won't get a critical hit, and there are times where I will, and they won't matter. So for example, I got a critical hit with Cloyster, or I got a critical hit with Slowbro rather than Cloyster. And so the question remains, would I have destroyed it with the critical hit or without the critical hit? Did it matter? I don't know. Jinx was my wall, and I'm leaving in a little bit of footage of me resetting. I had to reset for 5 minutes straight because I had to get a critical hit. There was no switch-ins for Jinx. I couldn't switch in because Jinx is always going to use Ice Punch because it is facing a Charizard. Charizard is Fire Flying and is weak to Ice, so that's what it was going to do. So that's that AI in action. As I stated before, sometimes the AI is bad, sometimes the AI is good. So there you go. So I had to cut 5 minutes of resets for you. Lapras wasn't too bad of a challenge. It missed the Hydro Pump, and boom, I won the battle. Lorelei's done. On to Bruno. Onix is the biggest problem with Bruno because Bruno outspeeds with Onix. Believe it or not, Onix is actually pretty fast. It's a pretty fast Pokemon, and it easily outspeeds Vaporeon. But we do have a speed tie for some reason. I'm not sure how it's calculated. The next one up is Hitmonchan. Hitmonchan is fairly easy, but Hitmonchan does have access to multiple types of punches. So I wanted to blind it, and I want to get some agilities off so that I wouldn't have too tough of a time getting through his defense. He is very physically defensive as a trainer. As you can see, he's using X Defense, and he uses it twice, X Defend, and that's going to make it very difficult for me to actually do damage. Fly barely did a third of his health, but because I use agility and I'm focusing on critical hits, I can cut right through the defense because crits ignore stat aperture. So there you go, boom, critical hit, and that's why I use ducks. So we go into Hitmonlee. Hitmonlee crashes with Jump Kick, and I go into Fly. Hitmonlee uses Focus Energy, which doesn't do anything. You're about to die. I'm not really sure why you would use Focus Energy as your last-ditch effort. And then it's back into another Onix, which outspeeds, and I had to reset a couple times because it did outspeed and it used its attacks against Vaporeon. So we had to reset the run. No big deal. Then it's finally on to Machamp here, and Machamp is another one that I was questioning on whether or not it actually had an attacking move that could hit me, because it does have Fissure. But because I have Ducks, Ducks is flying, Ducks is immune to Fissure. But if I wasn't immune, he could have hit me with Fissure and got a one-hit KO. That said, Ducks cleaned up with Fly, and we're on to Agatha. Now, Agatha is extremely easy, and if I was just a little higher of a level, I would have been able to sweep much more effectively, but I still was able to get through it. Her two Gengars and her Haunter are very, very weak defensively, so Earthquake just annihilates them, and because Dugtrio is massively blessed with speed, he absolutely crushes them in the speed category. So I keep him in because I have Rock Slide, and I think that that'll be fine. He uses Haze, which doesn't mean anything. I get a critical hit with another Rock Slide, and boom, Golbat's down. I don't know why she uses Golbat. I don't know why she uses Arbok. She's supposed to be the Ghost Master. There's only 3 ghosts in Kanto, so I guess they had to fill the slot. But anyways, you should have just made her Poison Master. But whatever. Point is, a couple Earthquakes later, and she's done. Again, Her Golbat and her Arbok are bulkier than her Ghost type, so I guess that really is saying something, isn't it? Because those two are naturally not bulkier. They're not on the bulkier end, they're not on the bulkier side. But when it does come to Gengar and Haunter, those two are like glass cannons. They can't take a hit. They're very similar to like Abra and Alakazam. So with that, Agatha is finished, and then we are on to the last battle, which is Lance. Now, normally I would have dreaded Agatha a lot more, but because I had Dugtrio, I really didn't. But this time, we're going to lead with our Raichu, and I know a lot of people are thinking, well, why don't you just go for the kill in Thunderbolt Gyarados, because that's an instant kill. And the reason I did that was because I wanted agility so that I can outspeed both of the Dragonairs. And now, I know a lot of people are going to be like, with the raised eyebrow, why didn't you use Vaporeon with Ice Beam? Because, again, I wanted the paralysis hacks. I got very lucky with Body Slam. Body Slam paralyzed, and it was fully paralyzed. And then I got a critical hit Body Slam. Their Slam misses, and I Body Slam again. 2 Body Slams finish the Dragonairs. Then a Thunderbolt outspeeds Aerodactyl. If you didn't know, Aerodactyl is one of the fastest Pokemon in Gen 1. So again, that is why I wanted the agility right off rip. He would have outsped, and he would have surely damaged. And then I wanted to start with Raichu and paralyze Dragonite because I can't do too much damage with Raichu. I wanted to swap over Vaporeon, and I was able to do that. Ice Beam with 2 fully paralyzed turns, and it took care of Dragonite. Dragonite's finished, and that is Lance down without taking any damage. We are on to the final battle, ladies and gentlemen. This is the one, the only, the last battle. So the champion sends out Pidgeot, starting right off rip. Best results we can hope for is a couple Whirlwinds. And that's literally the only results we can hope for because that's the only non-damaging move. This is supposed to be the best AI in the game next to the Professor Oak battle that never actually happened. If you didn't know about that, just look it up. It's interesting, it's unique, it's a cut battle. But anyways, that AI is better than this champion's AI, but this is the best AI in the game. And it's still using things like Whirlwind. So again, you saw that I had to do a reset because of Alakazam. Alakazam was very, very difficult, very, very tedious on me, because it could not only attack, but it could recover, and it could half my attacks. So it was very, very difficult to get through. This whole run, his Alakazam sucked to try and get through, but we managed to get through it yet again. He has our Rhydon. It's a little stronger than Giovanni's, but it falls all the same Surf because it's rock ground type. Then he has Arcanine, and Arcanine again is a little bit stronger than Blaine's, but it too falls to Surf. It wasn't a one-shot, but it pretty much was close to it. And then he sends out Executor, and Flamethrower doesn't do as much as I expected, but again, I am almost 20 levels lower. So it's like Executor has massive special, so this isn't unexpected, but it also has terrible moves because it's a stone-based evolution, and they didn't give it better moves, so it's like got Hypnosis and Barrage. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. And then finally, we're on to Blastoise. Blastoise is a chonky boy, but I think I get very lucky with a critical hit. And I have won, ladies and gentlemen. And there it is. You absolutely bore witness to the no damage run. Okay, a few things about this run. Some of the Pokemon that surprised me were the result of me being severely underleveled in the Elite Four. As I went through the game, for the most part, almost every trainer was pretty easy. Even the gym leaders were pretty easy. Lieutenant Surge was the easiest. Brock was pretty normal. Misty was extremely difficult. And then maybe Blaine, Giovanni, Koga, those guys were pretty easy. Sabrina was somewhat difficult, somewhat challenging. And I mean, Erika was pretty easy. So overall, was this an extremely difficult thing to do? No. Was it tedious? Absolutely. I had to reset multiple times for multiple reasons, and if I tried to count them, I would definitely say it's in the 300s of the amount of times I had to reset. I have 18 hours of in-game time. Every single trainer has been beaten. Every item has been gathered and sold for money, and I just, honestly, I didn't need too much money. I didn't need too many of the items. I could have done a lot of different things. I could have used X items, and I just chose not to. I could have one-hit KO'd with Guillotine, Fisher, stuff like that. I just didn't do that. So I just decided to use a team that could also use HMs, and I didn't need a Pokemon that was, like, you know, just there to use the HMs instead. I didn't hack in Mew. I didn't use any legendaries. This was just a very standard run. Could I do this with, say, just a Raichu? Maybe, but probably not. I would probably need a Mon with, like, Sand Attack at the very least, and I could probably do it with just one Mon with Sand Attack at the very minimum. But overall, would I want to do that? No. So this is probably the best that you're ever going to get. You're probably never going to get a single solo Mon run. I would like to invite you guys to subscribe to my channel, as I do constantly do Pokemon content. I do stream on Twitch. This was streamed live, so if you have any question on its legitimacy, it absolutely is legitimate. I do challenge runs all the time, ranging from Nuzlocke to starter only to whatever we come up with over there. And I would invite you to like and share the video, because it took me so many hours to edit. I think I'm on like 16 or 18 hours, and these voiceover recordings take an extremely long time to do too. So I thank you for joining me, and hopefully I will see you back here in the future if you did enjoy the video.